But we begin tonight with verifiable action in the fight for health reform. Not talk about health reform, not a TV ad campaign about health reform or a Tea Party or a You Lie outburst. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid has introduced to his 60-member caucus the Senate's version of health reform, what would be among the biggest changes in the history of American domestic policy. After the caucus meeting today, Mr. Reid met the cameras.
We all acknowledge this legislation is a tremendous step forward. Why? Because it saves lives, saves money, and protects Medicare, makes Medicare stronger. We've traveled really a long ways to where we are, and tonight begins the last leg of this journey that we've been on now for some time.
The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office today reportedly estimated that the bill will cover 94% of Americans. It will reduce the number of uninsured Americans by 31 million. It will cost $849 billion. It will reduce the deficit by $127 billion over its first 10 years. And the Senate bill does not include the draconian anti-abortion language from the House bill. The critical challenge for proponents of this bill now is to let the argument over it begin. Harry Reid and high-profile members of the Obama administration are now leaning hard on conservative Democrats to hang together as a gang of 60 to vote in favor of starting a debate. A vote that we are told to expect on Saturday. This afternoon, Mr. Reid held a closed-door meeting with three of those reportedly wobbly conservative Democrats. Senators Mary Landrieu of Louisiana, Blanche Lincoln of Arkansas, and Ben Nelson of Nebraska. Senator Nelson coming out of that meeting today sounding like he is leaning toward voting to let the debate happen. He said, quote, "The meaning of the motion to proceed is very simple. It's a motion to commence debate and an opportunity to make changes. If you don't like the bill, then why would you block your own opportunity to amend it?" And after reports today suggested that Senator Landrieu was thinking about blocking debate as well, she also started to sound today like she intends to let that bill go to the floor. Of today's cost estimate, Senator Landrieu told Politico.com that it, quote, "sounds like the numbers I was expecting to hear." She continued, "Democrats, we're trying to stay as united as we can be. We know this is an important issue for the country, and it's important we get it right. And we're moving in the right direction for the most part. At least we're getting bills that are less than $1 trillion, that are paid for, that are lowering the cost to the taxpayer and to businesses. So we're moving in the right direction, but there's still some improvements that could be made, and I'm hoping to see that on the floor." Important point there. Of course, it only gets to the floor if Senator Landrieu and all the other Democrats vote to send it to the floor. So it sounds like Senator Landrieu and Senator Lincoln are both leaning, and Senator Nelson are both leaning toward voting to let the debate begin. Democrats, of course, need all 60 senators to break the Republican filibuster and allow the debate to begin. Those helping to hold the 60 in line on Capitol Hill today included former Senator and now Vice President Joe Biden and former Senator and now Interior Secretary Ken Salazar, who is reportedly friendly with some of the Senate's most conservative Democrats. This is the home stretch here. This is the home stretch. After 60, 70 years of trying to reform health care in this country, this really is the political home stretch. Joining us now is Senator Tom Harkin, chairman of the Senate Health Committee. Senator Harkin, we've been really looking forward to getting you on the show. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Rachel, good to be with you.
You need 60 votes to overcome the Republican filibuster and start debating this bill. Do you think you have the 60 votes?
Rachel, to put it in baseball terms, we've rounded third and we're heading to home. And I got to tell you, no member of our caucus is going to want to be the one person that stops us from getting to home plate. We've all had our input. We've all had our debates. But I believe now the team is together. And our team is going to hold together, and we'll have those 60 votes to move ahead.
There is, of course, a public option in this bill that was presented today to your caucus with the provision that states can opt out of that public option if they want to. How happy are you with that element of the bill? Are you at all concerned that the opt-out provision might significantly weaken that public option?
Well, Rachel, it's like a lot of things. If I were the dictator in writing this bill, I wouldn't have written that in there. As you know, our bill that came out of my committee did not have that. But again, in order to get the votes and to get some people on board, it was necessary to put that in there. And so it's a compromise. And I think it's a reasonable compromise. Whether or not a state will vote to opt out or not, well, it's up to the states. I would think most people in any state would want to have that competitive edge that a public option would present. So quite frankly, I can't imagine too many states actually having their legislatures vote to decrease competition. If anything, they want increased competition, and that's what the public option does.
Senator Harkin, you, of course, have a long and progressive record on health reform. Are there changes to make this bill more progressive that you or any other Senate liberals will be pursuing through amendments if and when it does make it to the floor?
Rachel, first of all, as the chairman of the committee and part of the team that's trying to get this bill through, quite frankly, I think we have a good product here. Our leader, Senator Reid, has done a great job in putting this together. And it's a compromise package. And so I want to get it through. When we go to conference with the House, then maybe we'll have to make some adjustments and some changes at that point in time. But quite frankly, the bill as it is a bill that I can support and gladly support. Do I agree with everything in it? Not really. Like I said, I'd like to move it perhaps in a different direction in many cases. But I recognize that we have to have the 60 votes, and so I'm just sort of I'm an old Hubert Humphrey Democrat, okay, Rachel? He always said if you can't get a whole loaf, by gosh, get a half a loaf, and then we'll go after the rest of the loaf later on, and that's what I intend to do.
Well, in terms of that loaf, there's of course this first procedural vote to get the bill to the floor. You're saying tonight that you feel like you're rounding third and heading toward home on that one. That it looks like it will go to the floor. There will, of course, be a second procedural vote on after debate, whether or not this bill comes up to a final vote. If there are not 60 votes at that point, if Senator Lieberman, for example, follows through on his threat to filibuster at that point, this could be passed through reconciliation. That would mean it would only require a majority, 51 votes. Do you think that would mean we'd get more of that loaf then? We'd get a more progressive bill because nobody would have to woo conservatives like Lieberman and Nelson anymore?
Not really, Rachel. That would probably be the worst thing that we could do right now because of deadlines and dates, if this were to go to reconciliation now, it would not be written by my committee, which is a very progressive committee. It would be written by the Budget Committee. And it wouldn't even go to our committee. And that has all kinds of implications for how this bill might be drafted by the Budget Committee. The other thing is if it goes to reconciliation, all of the things I've worked so hard on for prevention and wellness and trying to put more emphasis on keeping people healthy rather than just going to the hospital and fixing them up, all that would fall by the wayside. And I think this is one of the most important parts of this bill, is to start focusing on a health care system rather than a sick care system, which is what we have right now. So if we go to reconciliation, all that falls by the wayside. I tell you, we don't have to go to reconciliation. We are going to have the 60 votes. Including Joe Lieberman. Including Joe Lieberman. We're going to have the 60 votes. Look, just look at this bill that we have here now. It cuts the deficit. You pointed out earlier, it cuts the deficit by $127 billion. It's going to cover 98% of all the people in this country when you factor in Medicare. It comes in less than the $900 billion that the president had stipulated. It has all these insurance reforms. No more pre-existing condition clauses. An insurance company can't just drop you because you get sick. Your children will be able to stay on your policy until they're age 26. We have all these insurance reforms. Plus we have all of the wellness and prevention programs in there. To me, this is a good deal for the American people, and I think the more that they learn about what's in this bill, the more they're going to realize that this is really good for the American people. Senator Tom Harkin, the huge news today, of course, is the content of the bill. I think you made some real news with us here on this show with your comments, especially on reconciliation. And I will tell you that I'm going to call Senator Lieberman's office and tell him that you said his vote is there on health reform, and then maybe he'll come talk to me about his feelings on it. Thank you for helping us make this news, sir. Thanks, Rachel.
Appreciate it.